Thank you for taking time to watch part 2 of this series. If you haven't watched part 1, I strongly suggest you kindly start there, so that you can connect and enjoy the beauty of this entertaining folktale. But if you did watch part 1, you will remember that when Lutando opened his mouth about to speak, to reveal the terrible truth the mermaid had told him, a shadow passed over the crowd. The tension in the air was intense as Lutando stood frozen in front of the gathered villagers, his heart hammering against his chest. The dark cloud that had rolled in from the sea cast a scary shadow over the village, and the medicine man's voice still echoed in his ears. "You don't know what you were talking about?" Lutando stares out at the horizon, heart pounding as he notices the dark clouds turning into a very darker shadow, creeping quickly over the village, denser and more menacing than anything he's seen before. Memories of the mermaid's warning flood his mind. She had cautioned him about a force lying dormant beneath the ocean's surface, waiting to consume his village. But he hoped it was a bad dream, a vision he could ignore. Yet here it is, unmistakably real. The dark cloud glides through the streets, filling the air with a suffocating chill. As he watches, Lutando realizes he must take action, but he feels utterly alone. Lutando stood on a higher ground, breathlessly trying to explain the cloud and its dangers to the elders and villagers. But they respond with dismissive chuckles and gentle pats, treating his words as the overactive imagination of a boy. Even his closest friends cast doubtful glances, whispering among themselves. The village medicine man, an old man with sharp eyes, steps forward and publicly questions Lutando's claims, suggesting he's been under a spell. Frustrated, Lutando tries to plead, to convince them of the impending threat, but his words fall on deaf ears. He feels the sting of rejection, realizing he may have to face this dark force alone. That night, Lutando, desperate for guidance, clutches the ancient shell the mermaid had given him. Holding it close, he whispers her name, willing her to appear. Silence fills the air, broken only by the distant crash of waves against the shore. Minutes pass, then hours, but the mermaid doesn't come. The emptiness distresses him, and doubt seeps into his heart. Was she really there for him, or had he imagined it all? Without her, he feels vulnerable, as if the weight of his duty to protect the village is too much for him to bear. But he pushes on, determined to find another way. Refusing to give up, Lutando tries to practice the magic the mermaid taught him. He focuses, recalling the precise movements, the murmured words, the feeling of energy flowing through him. He manages to produce a faint, flickering light in his palm, but it's weak, fading almost instantly. Exhausted, he collapses to the ground, his confidence shattered. If he can barely manage a spark, how can he hope to protect his village from the dark mist? But something within him refuses to give up, a spark of hope that keeps him going. He resolves to keep practicing, hoping his efforts will pay off. Haunted by fear, Lutando finds himself walking along the shoreline, searching for any sign of guidance. There, he encounters a strange old man, his skin weathered and eyes deep as the ocean. The man introduces himself as a spirit of the sea and tells Lutando he has a destiny, but his power will only reach its full potential through sacrifice. Magic is not free, the spirit warns. You must give up something you cherish. Lutando feels the weight of the decision, wondering if he can make such a sacrifice. But he knows there is no other choice. If he wants to save his people, he must be ready. One morning, monstrous waves crash onto the village's shores, their fury seeming to echo with the darkness creeping closer. Houses and crops are destroyed, livestock swept away. Lutando stands at the edge, trying to summon his magic, but it slips through his fingers, leaving him helpless as he watches the devastation unfold. Villagers, seeing his failed attempts, cast him wary glances, muttering under their breath. Fearful eyes follow him, suspicion clouding their faces. Lutando feels his heart sink, sensing that not only has he failed, but he is also losing the trust of those he's trying to protect. That night, Lutando is visited by a strange dream. In it, he sees a line of ancestors, warriors with the same fierce determination he carries. They tell him of a prophecy. One of their bloodline is destined to stand against a great evil, and he is that chosen one. The revelation both frightens and empowers him. He realizes this battle is not just about the village. It is his legacy, his purpose. But can he live up to the expectations of those who came before him? He wakes up with a renewed sense of determination, though the fear remains. Realizing that he needs to grow stronger, Lutando begins to train in secret. Each night, he sneaks to the shore, practicing the oceanic magic the mermaid taught him. With every session, his powers grow, but he soon realizes that each spell drains him, leaving him physically and mentally exhausted. Doubt fills him as he struggles to balance his growing strength with his weakened state. But he continues, driven by the knowledge that this is his only chance to protect the people he loves. He is now fighting not just against the dark force, but against his own limitations. The village's suspicions grow as the jealous medicine man secretly fans the flames, whispering that Lutando's power comes from a dark, forbidden source. Slowly, villagers begin to distance themselves from Lutando, treating him with a mix of fear and distrust. Lutando feels the weight of their eyes on him, cold and judging. He confronts the medicine man, but the elder's sly words only deepen the villagers' doubts. Frustrated and angry, Lutando realizes he is fighting an invisible battle against both the dark force and the villagers' mistrust. It seems every force, seen and unseen, is working against him. One particular night, Lutando tossed in his bed, caught in restless sleep, as shadows danced along the walls, filling his room with a scary darkness. Outside, a storm brewed, lightning flashing, casting strange shapes across the room. In the midst of the silence, a chill descended. A dark shadow slithered through the doorway like a living creature, moving with purpose toward the bed where Lutando lay. The shadow hovered over him for a heartbeat before striking, swift and silent. Lutando's eyes flew open as an icy sensation shook him awake. He saw nothing at first, just the faint remnants of his nightmare. But then the pain came, sharp and searing, like his shoulder was being branded with fire. He gasped, struggling to sit up, but the shadow pressed down on him, a weight he couldn't push away. Cold tendrils slid across his skin, settling on his shoulder, digging in until he felt a tearing, burning sensation. When he finally managed to break free, the shadow had vanished, leaving only the darkness and a horrible aching in its wake. Lutando looked down at his shoulder, breath hitching at the sight. There was a mark, an oozing, black wound, pulsing with a sickly green glow. It felt as if fire coursed through his veins, the pain intense and unyielding. Panic surged as he clutched his shoulder, trying to stem the pain, to do something, anything, to make it stop. Instinctively, he tried channeling his magic, reaching for the soothing warmth that had always healed him in the past. But this time, nothing happened. He focused harder, sweat beading on his forehead, but the magic wouldn't come. It slipped through his fingers like water, refusing to obey his command. Fear gripped him as he realized the wound wasn't ordinary. It resisted his powers, rejecting his healing touch. Lutando gritted his teeth, trying again and again, pushing himself until he felt drained and empty. But still, the mark remained, throbbing with an unholy energy that seemed to mock his efforts. Days passed, and Lutando's strength faded, as if the wound were draining his very life. Every movement felt like a burden. His limbs grew heavy, his vision blurred, and he struggled to even walk without feeling a wave of exhaustion. Tasks he'd once completed with ease now felt insurmountable. He'd always been a beacon of hope for the village, but now he felt powerless, cursed by an invisible force that had marked him, casting a dark shadow over his future. The villagers began to notice his decline, their gazes lingering with concern and fear. Whispers followed him wherever he went, and he caught fragments of conversations. Speculation that he was cursed, that he'd angered something beyond his control. The once friendly faces now turned away, their eyes filled with fear and unease. Lutando could feel the isolation, the quiet rejection, pressing down on him as heavily as the wound on his shoulder. Desperation clawed at his mind. He feared the shadow had been sent by the dark force itself, a slow, insidious poison meant to break him from within. His dreams were haunted by twisted figures, dark shapes whispering threats and voices that dripped with malice. The wound seemed to pulse harder whenever he thought of them, a cruel reminder of the shadow's reach. Each night, he lay awake, feeling the burn deepening, his fears growing. He could feel the shadow's hold, an impending doom creeping closer, suffocating him, leaving him powerless. As he stared into the darkness, Lutando was forced to confront a terrifying truth. He was marked, and with that mark came a fate that seemed inescapable, testing not just his strength, but his very soul. Just when Lutando is ready to surrender, the mermaid appears, her presence radiating a comforting warmth. She explains that she was gathering knowledge about the dark force's origin, something ancient and powerful. She hands him a new weapon, a shell filled with the wisdom of the ocean. This will help you, but you must face your greatest test alone, she warns. Lutando feels hope stir within him again. Though he doesn't fully understand the shell's power, he believes it holds the key to winning the battle. With her blessing, he feels ready to continue the fight. Fueled by the mermaid's encouragement, Lutando decides it's time to confront the medicine man. Gathering the villagers, he exposes the elder's lies and reveals how he's been trying to turn the village against him. The medicine man, however, retaliates with his own dark magic, attempting to humiliate Lutando. A fierce battle ensues, leaving Lutando wounded but victorious. His victory earns him the villagers' respect, and for the first time, they see him as a warrior and protector, not just a boy. Lutando stands taller, knowing he's finally won back their trust. The dark force responds to Lutando's win by engulfing the entire village in a thick, unbreathable mist. Villagers cough and panic as the air grows dense. Lutando, feeling the immense weight of the mist pressing down on him, struggles to summon his powers. Every movement is a struggle, every breath a fight. He knows that if he doesn't push back the mist, the village will perish. But his strength is dwindling, and he feels his will slipping away. It's as if the dark force is choking him, feeding on his fear and desperation. Realizing he's out of options, Lutando remembers the spirit's words about sacrifice. He looks down at a bracelet from his late father, a gift he's cherished all his life. Heart pounding, he lets it slip from his wrist into the waves, whispering a farewell. As the bracelet disappears beneath the water, Lutando feels a surge of power, an oceanic strength flowing through him, reconnecting him to the ancient magic of his ancestors. He now understands the true cost of his journey and feels a renewed sense of purpose. Suddenly, the mist takes shape, transforming into a monstrous creature formed of shadow and water, eyes gleaming with malice. Lutando stands his ground, drawing on his newly heightened powers, but the creature's strength is beyond anything he's faced. The battle rages, with Lutando barely holding his own. He's bruised, battered, and near breaking. Each time he thinks he's won, the creature returns, stronger and more relentless. Lutando begins to fear he cannot win, that this fight might claim him. But he reminds himself of his duty to protect, to stand until his last breath. Just as the creature lunges for a final attack, Lutando raises the enchanted shell, channeling all his remaining power into one last, desperate strike. The shell erupts with a light so blinding that the creature howls in agony, dissolving into the sea. The dark mist lifts, revealing a sky filled with stars. The village is saved. As he collapses to the ground, Lutando feels a bittersweet victory, knowing he has lost precious parts of himself. The villagers rush to him, their faces filled with gratitude, and Lutando, though exhausted, smiles, finally at peace with the path he's chosen. As Lutando recovers, strange occurrences begin to unsettle the village. A series of bad omens plague the people. Crops rot overnight, rivers run dry, and animals become ill. The villagers, once grateful for Lutando's bravery, now look at him with wary eyes, whispers of a curse filling the air. Despite his efforts, Lutando can't shake the haunting feeling that destroying the dark creature wasn't the end. He feels an emptiness where his powers once surged, and even the enchanted shell lies dormant. The realization dawns on him. Perhaps the creature's destruction unleashed something worse, a dormant curse left to torment his home. Late one night, as Lutando gazes at the enchanted shell, he hears a faint humming sound. He lifts it to his ear and hears the mermaid's voice, barely a whisper. She warns that the dark force's remnants still cling to the village, feeding on their fear and distrust. Lutando's only chance to restore peace is to journey to the heart of the ocean, where he must perform an ancient ritual to cleanse his powers and break the curse completely. The task feels impossible, but he knows he has no choice. Without the shell's full power and his diminished strength, Lutando faces a harrowing journey with no promise of success. Gathering his courage, he slips away from the village and into the night, making his way to the sea. He splashes into the ocean, letting the icy waves pull him farther from the shore. Guided by the shell's faint glow, he descends into the depths, feeling the weight of the ocean pressing on him. Shadows swirl around him, whispering his deepest fears and doubts, testing his resolve. Just when he feels he can't breathe, a flash of light from the shell illuminates a hidden path, leading him deeper into an underwater cavern. Lutando's heart races as he steps forward, knowing he is entering the heart of the darkness itself. In the cavern's depths, Lutando encounters the source of the curse, a massive, pulsating shadow with eyes like embers, representing all the hatred and fear that once plagued the village. It growls, recognizing Lutando as its enemy. Summoning every ounce of courage, Lutando raises the shell, speaking the ritual words the mermaid had whispered. The shadow lashes out, its tendrils of darkness wrapping around him, constricting his breath, filling his mind with visions of defeat and despair. Lutando feels himself slipping away, his strength failing, when a warm light fills him from within. The legacy of his ancestors. Empowered by their spirit, Lutando channels his last reserves into a burst of light, banishing the curse. As the darkness fades, the ocean calms, and Lutando rises, his spirit renewed. Returning to the village, he finds the curse lifted, his people safe, and a sense of peace finally settling over the land. Lutando has triumphed, proving that even in the face of ultimate darkness, courage and resilience can prevail. This is a story of courage and sacrifice. It remains a powerful legend, a tale of resilience and selflessness. To see the full journey of Lutando's transformation and the secrets he unlocks, watch the next episode in our series. Will Lutando's legacy live on? Subscribe to this channel, share this video, like it, comment, and watch part 3 to find out what happens next.